been saying the same thing about gospel singer LeAndria Johnson for the past 3 years. LeAndria Johnson is not an addict. She's just a woman who likes to drink. She's just now another church grifter. And every single time I come on and I say this, and of course I'm speaking from experience of having worked with addicts before, real addicts, just like many, I guess, 2 to 3 years ago, I introduced to some, not to all, the concept that not everyone is a victim. That you can actually be a victim of an incident, but not be a victim holistically. That most are willing participants. And these things are new ways of thinking for a lot of people. This is what I'm going to do before I go any further in my commentary about LeAndria's latest, incident. I have pulled up a podcast episode that I did almost a year ago. It was August of 2025. This week we're going into August of 2026. But take a listen to what I said last year and then we'll continue talking.
So I went back into my YouTube catalog because I thought, it seems to me just not too long ago, I was having this exact same conversation with the community about LeAndria Johnson, gospel singer LeAndria Johnson. And so I went back, and sure enough, it was actually August of 2024. Now here we are a year later, August of 2025, and it's the same old, same old. Matter of fact, it's been the same old for nigh on 17 years. And guess what? Some of you listening, you haven't woken up yet, just like all the people who attend the church services where LeAndria is grifting, right? No, they haven't woken up yet. And what's so sad to me, and it is just so sad, I said this last year, is that all people have to do is either preach really good or sing really good, and people's discernment, their common sense goes out the window. They start making excuses now because, well, the person's preaching blesses them or the person's voice blesses them. You know, last year when we were together, I said, LeAndria Johnson has no intentions of changing. And I even told you guys, in my opinion, she's really not an alcoholic. And I know that was a shock to a lot of people because, well, she has all the quote unquote markings of an alcoholic. And then, some people, they got a little bit ugly and they were like, I just can't believe that you used to work with drug addicts. I mean, how could you say this? Because I've seen real alcoholics, I've seen real drug addicts, and she's not one of them. She's just, as I said last year, she's just a woman that likes to drink, folks, and there's a difference. There are people who like to drink, and they will get drunk pretty frequently, but they're not an alcoholic. And again, I understand that for a lot of people, that's hard to reconcile, especially when on the surface, it appears that that's what she is, but she's not. She's not. So how long? I feel like the same conversation we've been having about Umar Johnson. How long will people continue to be scammed? How long?
When I was going back through my catalog to find this, I saw the pattern. August of 2024, August of 2025, now August of 2026. So y'all, all of you internet sleuths, y'all need to go figure out what exactly is going on with LeAndria around August. What is it? Because this is now 3 years in a row, and patterns indicate something's going on. Is she getting ready to have a big trip out of the country again? And so she does her little I'm drunk skit. I'm just so drunk. And people pray for her. She says, I'm going into rehab. I'm going to go. And they give her a bucket load of money so she can go do a show out of the country and have sex with whomever she's sleeping with, the men and the women, and then come back into town or come back into the country and then pretend that it's a whole, and to do the same thing again. You know what? One of the things that I said on this particular episode that we were just listening to together is that when it comes to keeping our own self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, self-respect high, It's little things like not letting someone grift off of us. It is now 17 years, and LeAndria has the same grift. She makes a live with her drunk skit. People pray. They feel sorry for her. I'm going to change. She gets invited to a church, and what happens? She gets on the stage and she tells the same sob story. Have you noticed? For the past 17 years. Oh, she may add a new layer here or there to it. And then she hits that note, and people just go crazy in the crowd. And guess what? They fill up the offering plates. LeAndria Johnson is no more than a grifter, y'all. She's found a really great hustle. And I kind of feel this way. You know, I used to be the kind of person, I would just be always giving money to whoever, the homeless, that you're out and about. Until one day I got scammed. And I was like, no, wait a minute. I just saw him on a corner in a wheelchair. And now I'm sitting here at the red light watching him put the wheelchair in the trunk of his truck. Okay? Put his sign back there too and get in the truck and drive off. What? And I learned from that incident not to allow my emotions to lead my giving. You can't run a sob story on me, get me all emotional, and then get me to open up my purse. How long are people going to allow LeAndria to run her grift on them? Why are people still going to churches that continue to invite LeAndria Johnson? Listen, Dietrich hadn't been saved in forever. Okay? Matter of fact, I was surprised to see Dietrich Haddon. I don't keep up with these people anymore. But, I thought, wasn't Dietrich Haddon exposed like 15, 20 years ago? We have to learn, y'all, when people really have problems, or when they've just learned that we respond to people that have problems. And so they play the grift on us. Just like I was talking about with you guys on Sunday, Jakes. How many of us have been in situations in sermons, church services where the preacher grifted us, scammed us. The title of the sermon was designed to get us to give in the end. The scriptures they chose were designed for us to give. And then they got us highly emotional. The musicians were backing them up. And then they said, okay, well, we went over Ezekiel 16, so everybody gives $1,600. You're going to come out of your wilderness place too. God's going to swaddle you too. When you look at the people, we have this conversation all the time, but I'm about to really go there. When you look at the crowd, who's in the crowd when LeAndria is doing her little scam, who is it? It's the same person that's in Jamal's church, that's in Jake's church, the older single black woman. Everybody in the world knows LeAndria's running a game. Everybody knows it. And we'll say they're the devil. We'll say that they're demonic and devilish. And they just don't know when somebody is struggling and God. Let me tell you something. I said this a year ago. I said it the year before that. We're going to be in 2030 and LeAndria is going to still be doing the same thing. I said it 3 years ago. We're now in 2026. It'll be 2027 and 2028 and 2029. That's if she lives this long. And she doesn't die in a plane crash or die in a wreck or, and we can't say it doesn't happen. Look at our dear Angie Stone leaving a show and got killed. So there's going to come a point where LeAndria is going to run out of time. She's been playing this little game for a long time, loading up on money, But there's going to come a point when LeAndra's not going to be able to play the game anymore. And guess what? It won't be because church people stood up and said, no more LeAndria. We're not inviting you to our churches anymore. We're not putting you up in front of our young men and young women as an example of someone who knows God. We're not doing it anymore. We're not doing it. We're not going to do that. We're not going to be a part of putting up before them a really bad example of someone who really doesn't have a problem. But for those of you who think she does, let's just, I'm going to play that game with you. If she actually has a problem, she actually doesn't want help. 17 years, every year is consistent, the same behavior every year. Playing in people's faces, having a good old time. I guess she and Dietrich are screwing now. She's sleeping around. You've heard that too, right? Sleeping around with the different people. Honey, LeAndria is playing folks for fools. You can't, people like this, you know, when I talked about many years ago, praying for Wendy Williams ain't gonna help. Because, you know, unfortunately, a lot of us are really highly emotional and we have no control of our emotions. And so we just respond. We just see a title and we just start typing. But for the people who listen to that, some of them shared that really helped them. And it's like, yeah, you can't just go off a title. You have to actually listen. I have to actually listen to what the person is saying to fully see whether I agree or disagree, and then form a substantive argument against their point or counterpoint to their point. Praying for people like this won't work because she doesn't have a problem, y'all. She's just playing a game. And let's just put it this way. Let's just play that game. If the prayers for LeAndria were really working, I mean, how many thousands, yea, hundreds of thousands of people around the world have prayed for her these 17 long years, and she's still getting quote unquote drunk and coming on live with it too, and just making fun and playing in people's faces. And then she does it all over again. And then she does it all over again. Where are the prayers that are supposed to be working? You see, her will is to do this game. And so no one's prayers are working. No one's prayers are going to work. Some of you who think you understand prayer, you've gotten quite angry when you've heard me say that God doesn't allow us to misuse prayer. See, we can't use prayer as a tool of controlling people, getting them to do what we don't want them to do, or getting them to start doing what we want them to do. It just doesn't work that way. And I find that people have a very poor understanding of what real intercession is. And they think that is intercession, what I just said. It's not. Nobody's prayers, all the prayer warriors, all the people who fasted in prayer for LeAndria, they just wasted their time because she doesn't have a problem. And again, if we want to play that game, if she has a problem, she doesn't want to be helped. And praying even for someone who's not ready to change is a waste of time. Oh, prayer is never a waste of time. Yes, it can be when it's misused. When prayer is misused, it's a waste of time because it's not actually prayer. It's people just wanting somebody to change. She's just a big scam, just like Umar, just like all the rest of them. And tell me, who is Umar's main donator? Isn't it the single older black woman? Isn't it? When LeAndra's doing her little thing on stage, going through her crying routine, she's got it down pat too. Going through her crying. When you look out in the crowd, who's out there? Who are the majority of the people? Single, black, older women. Older doesn't mean 80. Over 40. And when they find out she's coming to their town, guess what? They'll buy a ticket, bless their darling hearts, and they'll fill up that place, that church, that stadium, that whatever. And she'll do it all over again. If we want to have a healthy dose of self-respect, self-love, and self-esteem, it's these types of things, guys, that chip away at those structures in our lives. I learned this a long, long time ago. I'm so grateful for all the mentors I've had, not excluding, of course, my parents. But people think building their self-esteem and maintaining, and we talked about this, ladies, is not just about building self-esteem, it's about maintaining it. Because things happen in life that chip away at us. But then sometimes we involve ourselves in things that just are not good, and the writing is so on the wall. But people think building self-esteem, building self-love, building self-respect is that the things I'm talking and sharing with you about don't have anything to do with it, and it absolutely does. When we knowingly let somebody run a game on us, you see, we're chipping away at our own self-esteem, our self-respect. Why do you think, and I say that directly, but I don't mean it directly, why do we think, y'all, there are so many women who are filling these places up? What's their problem? What's going on? What's going on? Look at Juanita Bynum. Tell me, who is the main demographic in her audience? The single older black woman. Why? Why is that? We were just recently talking about some of our favorite, one of our favorite public people, some of us. She's one of our favorite public people, Miss Lynn Toller. Her husband's been gone now for almost 5 years. And we know that we can have people be the love of our lives. But I'm going to say this. If we get stuck in grief to where we can't get up in the morning because so-and-so is no longer here, that should only last a small period of time, y'all. If you understand the grief cycle, the steps, the phases of grief, they always talk about getting stuck in some of those phases. When one person is our everything to where they've been gone now for 5 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, and we still can't function, we had an unhealthy dependence on that person. And that's just the truth. And I know it doesn't sound good, but it's the truth. We talked about Wendy Williams. Ain't none of us should. There's nobody worth going crazy over, y'all. Except that what happens when we stay with people like she stayed with that man, knowing all the women he was sleeping with all those years. See, she was chipping away. Unbeknownst to her, she was chipping away at her own self-esteem, self-love, self-respect. And then when he left, she didn't have none of her left. And that's what happens when people sit up and let this woman, LeAndria Johnson, grift off of them. And they actually think God is sanctioning this lady. All they're doing is chipping away. And when it comes time for them to make some decision, they got to ask 15 different people. They need 50 people to pray. You see, they don't have any confidence in themselves and their ability to pray and get results. This is why we shouldn't play around with prayer. You know, sometimes I see people have gotten angry when I've said, well, I'm not praying for such and such celebrity. I don't know them, you know, Teddy and Tina. I don't know if these people really get, I don't know if they're really, I'm not praying for people where I don't even know what's really going on with them. We've seen too many celebrities play in our faces. And then you have people who actually think something's wrong with that. Prayer is too precious to waste when someone could be just running a game for clicks and views in a reality show. As I get ready to let you go, I say the same thing after I end every episode about LeAndria. It'll be next year. That's if she lives. If she lives, we'll be back again next year with the same thing. For as long as the church at large allows this woman to keep running this scam on them, every year she's going to run it. Because that's how she pays her bills. Every year. Every year. For as long as they keep allowing it, she's going to do the same thing. Notice it's been 17 years. There's nothing new she's done, nothing different she's done. It's literally the same playbook. And it's still working 17 years later. And I'll talk to you on the next one.